Our lives are filled with many ups and downs. And the thing is, usually when there's a down, it has usually something to do with heartbreak. So in this video, I'm going to be letting you know if heartbreak can actually be deadly. Coming right up. Hey y'all, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits. So heartbreak is actually a real thing. You know, in my mind, I always thought, I had this image actually, that this heart where there's a crack and it kind of shows that there's some damage that's been done to the heart. Sometimes the hearts are even split apart. And I always imagined, I always thought that it was more an emotional break rather than a physical one. Because I guess that's how things have been taught while I was growing up. And also, it doesn't really serve as a real excuse when, you want to miss class or you want to miss work. Because I guess people want to separate, their personal lives and their professional lives. But actually, heartbreak is an actual syndrome. And some people call it the broken heart syndrome. And some people even call it the Takotsubo syndrome, which basically means an octopus trap pot. It's funny when you put it that way. But basically, it kind of like constricts the octopus inside a pot. So I guess in some way gives stress or something. Anyway, besides the point. The point is, broken heart syndrome, or as I said earlier, the Takotsubo syndrome, can actually be misdiagnosed as a heart attack. And that's quite creepy when you think about it. There is a dramatic change not only in your heart rhythm, but also in the blood substance. And the biggest difference is only just that there is no evidence of some form of clogging in the arteries. So actually, it's more severe than it seems, isn't that so? So realistically, when you think about it that way, shouldn't work and school kind of allow you to be exempt from being in those places, given how severe this thing actually is? But the good thing is that it's treatable and you can basically recover within days or even weeks, depending on your approach to the thing. So of course, there are sport groups, there is the possibility that, why not just find another girl, to fill in that gap? I'm not saying that's the best thing to do, but in some instances, there are ways on how we can cope. Some people bottle themselves up, literally bottle, like drink lots of alcohol, get into drugs and all of this. That's the worst way to go about it. Because at the end of the day, the problem is still there. You might just drown yourself from all the misery, but at the end of the day, the misery has not gone anywhere. You have just delayed, not even delayed, you have just kind of illusioned yourself on what's just there, and you basically eventually still have to face the reality. In a couple of sources, it's quite interesting. Because there are some studies that show that men are actually more prone for this heartbreak syndrome thing. And there are also a couple of studies that show that women are more prone. But in reality, in my opinion, I really think it all falls on the person's personality, or rather character. Because some people have a way to cope with things, and some people have no idea how to cope with certain things. Some people just want to deny certain facts, and some people just try to accept it head on. So if you go into the studies of men, usually they go into the idea that they're more realistic. When they hear the news, it's more solid. It gets into their brain faster, and they just try to move on so fast that you even hear these statements that if a guy falls out of love with you, the chances that he will fall back into you are really small in comparison to a woman. And for me, these are all just very, how would you say? It's an attempt to generalize the sexes. And for me, every person has the capacity to be sensitive, has the capacity to approach life differently. So for me, and which I believe for you as well, whenever you confront a devastating news or a certain thing, you should accept it in a way, which is actually something really hard to do because it's something that you least expect, or it's too devastating that you don't know how to react. So in reality, there are times where you don't know how you can prepare yourself. But the best approach, in my opinion, is to seek help. It could either be with a doctor, a therapist, or a friend. You share what's bothering you. Because the problem is, the more you bottle things up, the more you're prone to get into depression, the more your mental state gets affected, and the more there is a possibility that you can develop some form of heart disease, in addition to the abrupt effect which can even result to a possible heart attack. So if you receive a news, try to see the good out of it, even though there might not be much good. I guess that's one way to go about it. After which, you find people with whom you can share your experience with. It's like maybe call a friend. Hey, I just broke up with my girl. I'm really not okay. Do you think you can be there for me? I need to talk. Getting things out of your system is a good way to go about certain things. And for some people, if they feel like it's something that's too hard to deal with, they're too anxious, maybe taking certain medications could help. Some people who are under beta blockers at least, have some form of threshold which is higher than most other people. But it doesn't change the fact that this type of thing, or syndrome, or heartbreak, is something that we are all eventually going to face, because there is obviously something that we care about. It could be a person, it could be our pet, it could even be our form of security, it could be our way of life, it could even be a religious thing. So at the end of the day, what's important is you try to collect yourself no matter how devastating a news is. After all, life just goes on, and you're not alone. Every person at some point in their life goes through ups and downs. And the ups and downs are what makes life worth living in reality. Because if it's all, just, how would you say, cotton candy and unicorns and rainbows, we'll never really, at the end of the day or at the end of our lives, appreciate the beauty of it. Because if everything was perfect, we wouldn't even understand what perfection is. So, once again, Aman here. You're watching Heart Limits. I hope this video gave some insight on how heartbreak is actually a real thing, and how you deal with your emotions is actually a way of dealing with your well-being. So, once again, see ya.